All right, so this is Outpost Siberia, and here we are. I've set us up for 3 players. I've chosen Tracker, Tanaka, Survivalist Dana, and Expedition Lead Hans. And truthfully, the reason I picked these, they have 4 health each, so it'll help me help me not die so quick in this example run through. I've also went ahead and already dealt out their starting hands of 1 card each from the threats. I've set the threat deck with 6 good events and 6 bad events, so that's considered a normal game, and I've shuffled that in with the remaining threats. And then this is our Outpost deck, the deck that we will be drawing. I left this over here so that way you can see big scary bear thing, bad deck. And then this is us, so that's the good deck. And in this area here is where I'll put whatever's in our supply, and we'll kind of figure this out as we go. All right, so I'm gonna start with Tracker Tanaka first. And if you look, he has a starting hand of 1 food, and it does, there's a 1 combat value. So I'm going to start, we will draw up 3 additional cards. So 1, 2, and 3. We get to add 1 to our hand, discard 1, and put 1 in the supply. So I definitely want a first aid kit in the supply, so I'll set that there. And then I will go ahead and hold on to a first aid kit because that's a 2 attack. And then right here, I'm just gonna discard this one. So this will be our discard pile right here. Actually, and I will even move this deck up. So that way, we have room for all the supplies we hope to amass. All right, so my draw was phase 1. And then phase 2 is attack threats. Currently, we do not have any threats here, so I don't need to attack anything. My third option is going to be to use some equipment. We don't have any equipment that I need to use right now. First aid kits, no big deal. So then we'll go down to the 4th step, and this is where we endure the expedition. So I'll set his starting cards here. Okay, so on to the expedition step. We will go ahead and draw here, and we draw a bad event. So it starts with pay 1 water. We don't have any water in our supply. We only have a first aid kit here. So that's lousy. So first and foremost, because we can't pay the water, we have to choose a person in our group to lose 1 health. So we will just choose me, or the first guy whose turn it is, just for the sake of this. And then we'll look here and it says missing flare. Discard 1 flare, 1 food, or 1 water from the supply if possible. We only have 1 first aid kit, so that's not possible. So otherwise, discard the top card of the Outpost deck. So we'll just go ahead here and we discard this card, which was a 3 attack value card. That's kind of a bummer. But at the same time, that is it for this card. So this card can actually go into the Outpost discard pile. And the flare that's on the bottom of that card will eventually be shuffled back into our deck. So that is the end of our Tracker's turn, so we will exhaust him. And let's just take Survivalist Dana next. Okay, so she starts with a card that is a 1 action. Let's just set that there. And we will draw 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, and we have a first aid kit, a flamethrower, and a water worth 3. So now, while I would love to have a 3 combat value card in my hand, we definitely need water in the supply. You see the very first card we drew, we needed it, we didn't have it. So we need to definitely make sure we have that in our supply. So I'm going to put that there in the supply. And of these 2, let's take the 1 flamethrower into her hand and then discard the first aid kit because I'd like to see the first aid kit get shuffled back sooner than later. Flamethrowers will run into, I want to be able to heal our people later. So we'll add that to her hand. We'll discard the first aid kit. So now her hand is basically 2 cards that are 1 combat value each. So now we go on to the attack threats phase. There are no threats that are active out here. So we'll skip that and then we'll go on to the use equipment phase. Now, I'm gonna play cautiously. Right away, I wanna take this first aid kit and I wanna use it and I wanna heal Tracker Tanaka's 1 health point. That way we have him back full health and this will be quicker to be shuffled back into that deck. Now we're going to endure the expedition. We will flip this card and we will see, of course, it's another bad event. But you look here, pay 1 water. Thanks to Survivalist Dana, we had 1 water to pay, so we will discard that card. And we're good there. And it says the active player loses 1 hit point. So Survivalist Dana is going to lose 1 hit point, and then we discard this card. And I will actually flip this so they're in order, because I'm kind of particular about cards being sorted nice and in order. And now we endured the expedition. We're going to exhaust her card. And here's her cards. Now we'll go on to Expedition Lead Hans. Hans currently has a hand that is a 2 combat value card. We will draw his 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. We have a flamethrower, we have water, and we have a flare. So we're going to put water into the supply. And we will take a flamethrower in hand, and we'll discard the flare, just because we don't have any threats out right now, so I don't feel a need to hold on to a flare card. Well, actually, these are going on the hand anyway, so it doesn't really matter at this point in the game. So we'll discard that. Now we have no need to play any attack cards, because there's no threats to attack. And we have no equipment that we really want to use, because it's water and we need that for the bad events. So Hans will go ahead and he will draw his expedition, or endure the expedition. And this is, it's our first threat. So first, we deal with the combat. So one person is there's going to be 1 damage to 1 person in our group. Now, it goes to the person who has not had a turn yet. Well, these 2 are exhausted, so it would be somebody else who is left standing that is not yourself, because you cannot choose yourself. So since I'm the only person who hasn't been exhausted and you can't choose yourself, I have to pick one of these other 2. Dana's already down 1. Let's take Tanaka down 1. Back to the threat. This is going to be a Raging Onager with a 2 health, and it says at the end of each turn, or at the end of each round while this threat is in play, you must discard 1 food from the supply if possible. Otherwise, 1 player loses 1 hit point. This card kind of sucks. So we're going to set that there. That's an active threat. And that's all Dana gets to do, or Hans rather gets to do. So he's going to set his hand there, and he's going to exhaust his card. Now, what would happen at the end of the round, after all the players go, the threat takes effect. So again, we're going to look at this threat, and it says at the end of each round, while this threat is in play, you must discard 1 food from the supply if possible. We have water in the supply. We have no food in the supply. Well, that kind of stinks. If not, 1 player is going to lose 1 hit point. And this stays in play until you destroy it. So we'll take Hans, he'll take 1 damage. And then we'll go ahead and, since the threat took their turn, it's the end of the round, we will reset or refresh our people. Oops, and I just moved the life tracker on that one. Okay, and we can start back, and we can, again, pick what player we want to go first. So I'm going to say Dana's going to go first this time. How come? Just because. No rhyme or reason. So here's her hand. We'll draw 3 cards from the deck. We keep 1, put 1 in our hand, and discard 1. So the one that we'll keep in the supply, we'll keep the first aid kit. And big choice there of a ice axe that does 1 or an ice axe that does 1. So we'll keep that in our hand and discard this one. Now, here's where it gets fun, is Dana can choose to attack a threat. So this threat has 2 health. See right here, 2 health. So we are going to say, we'll attack it. And this does 1 damage. Well, let's do 2 damage on it. I'm going to play the food card out of her hand, because I want this to get shuffled back into this deck. So that way, when we're out of cards, we'll hit that food card again later, and sooner than later. So we're going to do the food, and we'll just say an ice axe. So what we'll do is we'll set both of these behind here, just to kind of show that we've done 2 damage to this guy. And I'll just set that back in our hand for now. Now, we also get to, for phase 3, use equipment. So she's going to use a first aid kit, and she's going to choose to heal Hans. Why not? All right, now during the use equipment phase, which is optional, I would want to use a flamethrower or an ice axe so that I can get rid of this Raging Onager who's already had its health met. So this should die, I just need one of those cards. I don't have one in the general supply. However, Dana has a skill that says you may discard any 1 card from your hand and treat it as if you used a flamethrower from the supply. So, and If it wasn't Dana's turn, if it was Tanaka's turn, you could still use her power, or if she didn't have the ability to do that, you could use his skill. It doesn't matter whose turn it is, you can use one of the survivor's skill at any point in the game. So I'm going to go ahead and use this skill on Dana, and we will discard this flamethrower from her hand. And then we will use that, because of her power, to be able to discard this threat. So this threat is now gone, goes into the discard pile that I will clean up because my cards are sliding all around. And then that's the end of that phase. We will endure the expedition. So Dana's going to draw this card. Oh, and this threat is going to do 1 damage to somebody who hasn't had a turn yet. So I can pick either Tracker Tanaka or Expedition Lead Hans. I will do Hans because he has full health at the moment. And we'll look here, and this guy this guy has 8 health. And when it comes time to at the end of the round, when he gets to do something, it says all players draw only 1 card on their turn while this threat is in play. So while it doesn't necessarily kill you, only having 1 card is pretty miserable. So we're going to set that guy there. Finally, we're going to exhaust Survivalist Dana. She has had her turn, and because Expedition Lead Hans took damage when this guy came out, he has to take the next turn. So we see currently he has a 2 combat value and a 1 combat value in his hand. He is going to draw 3 cards, 1, 2, 3. We'll look at them. 1 goes to his hand, 1 goes to the supply, and 1's going to get discarded. We will say, let's put the food and the supply, and either one of these are fine in his hand because they both do 2 combat damage. So we'll just put that in the discard pile and put this in his hand. So he can do 5 damage in his hand now. That's a good thing. All right, so now we have the attack threat. So this does 5 damage total. So we are actually going to use all of Hans's cards to try to kill this infected researcher. So that does 5 damage out of 8, so he has 3 health left. I have no more cards to play. The equipment phase, I can use equipment here. Don't have any that I need to use, so no worries there. Now it's time to endure the expedition. So what happens next? Yet another bad event. So first we have to pay 1 water. We have a water here. Pay it, it's gone. And then this says, frozen solid, discard 1 ice axe from the supply if possible, which it isn't, we only have food there. Otherwise, discard the top card of the Outpost deck. So this gets discarded, and we will discard the top card of the Outpost deck, which would have been an ice axe. That is the end of Hans's turn. And now it's Tracker Tanaka's turn. If we look at Tracker Tanaka, we're looking at 3 combat value, which will be nice because it'll help us to defeat this infected researcher. We only have 1 card to draw, so we're going to shuffle these cards up. So 1, 2, 3. Take that 1. That becomes a draw pile. We'll take a look here. We have flamethrower, food, and ice axe. I'm going to put flamethrower down here because we're going to want to get rid of this guy when we can. And we'll discard the food because it's just an attack value, and we'll put this 1 attack value or combat value into his hand. So now it's the attack phase, attack a threat. So he's got 2, 4, 5 here out of the 8. So we need 3 more. So I'll take these 2 cards and put them under the threat. So now we have a total of 8 damage to the threat, which only has 8 health. And this card stays in Tracker Tanaka's hand because we're not going to use that. Goes on to the use equipment phase. We will use this flamethrower, which states, required to defeat a threat that has had its life reduced to 0. So we can now get rid of this threat. Put these cards into the discard pile. And now we are going to endure the expedition, which is draw the next card. And we have a Raging Boar, which does 1 damage to somebody who hasn't had a turn yet, who's not exhausted. Everybody is exhausted except for Tanaka, whose turn it is. You can't do the damage on yourself, so we'll just pick Hans. Then what this says is at the end of each round while this threat is in play, you must discard 1 food or 1 water from the supply if possible. Otherwise, 1 player loses 1 hit point. This is lousy too. So that's the end of Tracker Tanaka's phase 4. So phase 5, he's going to exhaust himself. And now it's the threat's turn. So again, what we just read here is going to happen. We have to discard 1 food or 1 water from the supply or somebody's going to lose some health. So we have 1 food in the supply, so we'll discard that. So we're good there. And everybody's going to refresh. And if you notice now, we are running low on cards and we got a pretty cruddy threat out there. So I'm going to say Hans is going to go first because Hans only has 2 health left. So he's going to draw 3 cards from the draw deck. 1, 2, 3. Now look here, we have first aid kit, flare, and ice axe. Well, I definitely want the first aid kit to go into the supply. And I'll take the ice axe that does 3 damage into his hand, and the flare will get discarded. We're going to attack the threat phase. So we will give the raging boar will take 3 damage out of the 8 that it can handle. Equipment phase, we are going to use the first aid kit, and he's going to heal himself a little bit. All right, and then after the equipment phase, it's time to endure the expedition. Here comes more fun, and we have a raccoon dog. So first and foremost, it does 1 damage to somebody who's not exhausted yet. So we pick Dana or Tanaka. Let's do Tanaka. And then this says, at the end of each round, while this threat is in play, 1 player loses 1 hit point. This is another really cruddy one, and it's going to be in play right here now. And then, because we started with Hans, he is exhausted. Now Tanaka took damage from this threat, so we'll pull his hand forward. It's going to be his turn. And we'll draw 3 cards. Now we're in trouble because we need food and water, we need a first aid kit, and we need some high attack cards. So we'll start with the first aid kit because Tanaka has a skill that he can discard a card from his hand to use it as food from the supply, and Hans has one that you could do the same thing but for water. So we should be safe if worse comes to worse, hopefully. So then we'll take the flare card into his hand, so that way it does more damage than the other, and we'll discard the water. Now here's Tanaka's hand right now, and this does 3 damage. So what we're going to do is, I want to get rid of this raccoon dog as quick as possible because it just kills health no matter what's in the supply. That's no good. So we'll give him 3 damage. Can't discard him yet because we need a flamethrower or a fire axe, or rather an ice axe. So we'll put that there. It goes on to use equipment. First aid kit we're going to use, and we are going to heal 1 life on Tracker Tanaka. Now he gets to endure the expedition. Now you see where this is going very, very wrong. And, where are all the good things? Where's the good stuff? It's not in here. So first of all, 1 damage, and it's going to go to Dana, because it's not Dana's turn. And then this is, well, we have to use a flamethrower to defeat this threat, and Ice Axe has no effect. So while this isn't going to hurt us in any future rounds, it's still it's going to be out there hanging around until we kill it at the very end. But this one isn't really too bad, all things considered. We'll put that there. But now we have 3 threats. If we ever have 5 of them, we lose the game. So we got to start acting here. So Tanaka is exhausted. And now it's Dana's turn. So let's draw up some cards for Dana. Come on, Dana, what do you got for us? A nice axe, some food, and some water. Ooh, but this is a 3 attack. And a nice axe. So the ice axe is going in the supply because we want to be able to kill the raccoon dog. I want to take the 3 in hand because I want to try and knock out that raging boar sooner than later. So then we'll choose to discard the food. So now we're going to attack a threat. So 3, he's already dead. This guy's got 3, so now he has 6. So he only has 2 health left. Now we're going to use equipment. We'll use the ice axe to kill the raccoon dog. Yay, there's 1 threat gone. Now we have to endure the expedition, and it is not looking good for us. Oh, another bad one. All right, pay 1 water. We don't have any water. And even though Expedition Lead Hans says you may discard any one card from your hand and treat it as if you used the water from the supply, he doesn't have any cards in his hand. So first, because we can't do that, somebody's losing health. That's just the nature of the game. So, okay, Hans will lose some health. And then it says discard one food or one water from the supply if possible. It's not possible. Otherwise, one player loses 1 hit point. Well, one player is going to have to lose 1 hit point, so we'll say Tanaka. And then this will get discarded. And we're getting there. We're getting through the deck. There's still a lot of cards, and it's not looking good. So then Survivalist Dana will be exhausted. And now we go to these and we do the bad stuff. We do their actions. All right? So this is nothing that's on. This is just an ongoing effect. It's not an attack. So we're okay there. But this Raging Boar is going to hurt us. At the end of each round, while this threat is in play, you must discard 1 food or 1 water from the supply, which is impossible. Otherwise, one player loses a hit point. So guess what? One player is losing a hit point. We'll just say Tanaka. And can you see right now where we're getting in some trouble? So let's reset everybody. We need some health. We need some extra cards. We need help. So I'm gonna have Tanaka go first because Tanaka only has 1 health and I don't want him to accidentally take any kind of damage. So we'll draw 3 cards up for him. What do we got? First aid kit, ice axe, flare. Well, first aid kit's gonna be good for the general supply. Flare and ice axe are both moot because they're both worth 1 combat value. So 1 combat value into his hand. So he'll attack this guy. So now this guy has 7 out of 8 health down. Tanaka has no more cards in it. Well, you know what? No, so this is interesting. We can attack this guy for 1 health, or for 1 combat value, or Tanaka can hold on to this card. Because again, Tanaka's power is that we can use a card in his hand as though there's food in the supply. So what I think I'm going to do is, this is only a 1 combat value. We're getting low here, and we're definitely going to draw a card out of this that's going to require us to have food or water. So we're not going to attack this round, so he's just going to hold on to that. We're going to use equipment. We'll use the first aid kit, and I guess we'll use it on him because he is almost dead. Even though I'd like to bring some of the other people up more, just in case. I don't feel comfortable with 1 person on 1 health. And now we'll endure the expedition. Bad stuff. Hey, look. Pay 1 food. Tanaka's power. Discard a card from your hand and treat it as if you used food. So we will do that. We'll discard this card. Hey, we met that. Snowed in. Discard 1 flamethrower from the supply if possible. Not possible. Our supply stinks right now. Otherwise, discard the top card. So we will discard the top card. Okay, now we'll move on to Dana's turn. Dana. Ooh, last 3 cards in the deck. And we have a flamethrower worth 3 combat value, food, and a nice axe. Well, let's see. I think that we're going to want to... See, this is getting tough. This is where I'm going to make a decision that everybody's like, what's wrong with you? We're going to put the ice axe in the supply. We will discard the food. Probably a dumb decision. And then we will keep this in our hand as an attack. That's what we're going to do. We're going to hedge our bets. And then for the attack phase, she's going to play this onto the Raging Boar, which is going to be overkill, but at least it will be damaged. Or, dead. She's going to play an equipment card as the ice axe, so we'll be able to get rid of this Raging Boar. And we're starting to play catch up here. It's going to be okay. Now we endure the expedition. No! 1 damage to somebody who's not exhausted. Expedition Lead Hans has only 1 life left. You cannot use cards with a CV value of 3 to attack this threat. Well, that's okay, because that just means this is going to hang out and be a little nagging. It's not really going to hurt us in the long run now. And then Dana's exhausted. And we're going to move on to Hans. So let's shuffle up these cards for Hans. He's going to draw 3 cards. And 3, a 3, and a 3, a 3, and a 3, a 3, and a 2. So let's put this water worth 3 here. We'll hold on to the, actually let's do this differently. We're going to put the water worth 2 here. We'll hold on to the water worth 3 and discard the flamethrower worth 3. For his attack turn, he's going to play an attack card on this guy, bringing him down a little bit. Use the equipment. No, not going to. And then we will endure the expedition. Where are the good stuff? Where's it at? I know it's in there. So 1 damage to somebody who's not exhausted. Everybody's exhausted. Can't be himself, so we'll just say Dana's going to go down to 1 health, and you're going to watch me lose this game in a second. Infected Explorer. At the end of each round while this threat is in play, the last player to take a turn must discard 1 card, or else they lose 1 hit point. Well, guess what? We're going to lose this turn in this hand, because Hans is the last player taking a turn. He has no cards in his hand because we played it as an attack card, so we're going to be screwed. So that's the end of Hans' turn. We're going to exhaust Hans. Now all the bad stuff happens from all the bad guys. Siberian Tiger does nothing. The brown bear is just kind of hanging out eating our food, no big deal. But now we get to the Infected Explorer. At the end of each round while this threat is in play, the last player to take a turn, which was Hans, must discard 1 card or else they lose 1 hit point. We do not have any cards to discard, and I'm not the type that's going to say, oh, instead of attacking that, I'm going to put that back in my hand. We're dead. So Hans loses his last health. He dies, which is fine because Dana and Tanaka never really liked Hans anyway. He didn't like the same movies. He always complained about their music, and they didn't like the food he ate. It kind of smelled bad. So Hans is gone, but now the survivalists all lose. And that right there is Outpost Siberia. So as you can see, there was a lot of stress, a lot of decision making, and what you do from turn to turn definitely comes back to haunt you, because you see I was being very aggressive, trying to get these non-essential threats cleared, and at the end of the day, my inexperience has cost us dearly, and that stupid Infected Explorer, who was probably a friend of theirs from way back, just came back and kind of gave them a bad day. So that's the game. I'm going to take you up top, and I will let you know what I think of this game.